Right, salvete omnes. This is our last reading for the last chapter of this course. So this is the reading of chapter 6. And then just like chapter 1 started off with a map of Europe, we're going to zoom in on Italy, and this chapter begins also with a map. And as we begin reading, the first thing that it's going to be talking about is this map. But then we're going to kind of get back into the story after a couple of paragraphs. And so the first thing it's talking about is the roads that are located in Italy, or that were located in Italy in the Roman Empire. So we have the several towns, more towns than what was shown on the map the first place. So we had Roma, we had Tusculum, I think, and then we had Brundisium, which is the Italian city of Brindisi. But in ancient Rome, it was called Brundisium. Ariminum, I think that's Rimini. Some of these, like Genoa, I think that's the same name. And of course, Roma is the same name. Tusculum, nothing is located right there on the modern map that looks anything like Tusculum. So maybe it was just destroyed or something. I don't know. But there were roads connecting several of these cities, and these roads had names. And the Via Appia is still there. You can still walk the Via Appia, and it looks the same in several parts. And so let's take a look. In Italia, multae et magnae viae sunt. And then it's going to go ahead to list those until the next period. So it's saying, in Italy, many and big roads there are. There are many big roads. And then it lists them: Via Appia, Via Latina, Via Flaminia, Via Aurelia, Via Aemilia. So there's even a road named after the mom in our story. No, that's a coincidence. Via Appia est inter Romam et Brundisium. So notice something here. Roma, as it's labeled on the map, is in the nominative. It's labeled in the nominative, Roma. But here, when we say the Via Appia is in between Rome and Brundisium, shown off the map, we have Rome and Brundisium in the accusative. Romam is the accusative of Roma. Brundisium, well, the nominative and the accusative are the same for neuter words, so you can't really tell that it's in the accusative, but it is, and you can tell from the Rome that it's in the accusative as well. So with our word for inter, or for our word for in between, which is inter, we're going to put the words in the accusative. Via Appia est inter Romam et Brundisium. Via Latina inter Romam et Capuam. Via Flaminia inter Romam et Ariminum. Via Aurelia inter Romam et Genuam. Via Aemilia inter Ariminum et Placentiam. Brundisium, Capua, Ariminum, Genoa, Placentia, Ostia, Magna Oppida sunt. So they are big towns. Remember, this doesn't really look like it's a plural, but it is, because oppidum is a neuter word, so oppida means towns. Magna Oppida means big towns. Ubi est Ostia? Ostia est prope Roma. Prope is another preposition that uses the accusative. So Ostia is near Rome. And what I would suggest doing is, as you read this on your own, be looking at the map too as you try and figure out what those mean. Or just, maybe you know what they mean, but then just look at the map and let the visual kind of confirm for you what it means. So what did it say? Capua est prope Romam. Well, not as prope as Tusculum is, but where did we leave off here? Yeah. Oh, Ostia est prope Romam. Oh, yeah, well, of course. Ostia est prope Romam. Tusculum quoque prope Romam est. So Tusculum is also near Rome. Brundisium non est prope Romam, sed procul ab Roma. Oh, so we can figure out what that means. Brundisium is not near Rome, but we would think it means the opposite. So far from Rome. Procul is far, ab Roma, from Rome. Now, interestingly, when we say from Rome, we're not using the accusative, we're using the ablative. So ab Roma. Via Appia longa est. Via Appia longa est. Oh, all the way down here. Via Appia. Via Latina non tam longa est. So the Via Latina not as long is quam as Via Appia. Via Latina non tam longa est quam Via Appia. Quam longa est Via Flaminia? So how long is the Via Flaminia? Quam longa est Via Flaminia? If you speak any Romance languages, this should feel kind of natural, as in Spanish. Quan is the word we would use for like how as in how much. Quam longa est Via Flaminia? Neque ea tam longa est. So it neither is as long as. Neque ea tam longa est quam Via Appia. Tiberis fluvius non tam longus est quam fluvius Padus. So we remember the Tiberis from the very first chapter. We remember that it was a fluvius, a river. Tiberis fluvius, the Fluvius River, the Tiberis, the Tiber River, non tam longus, not as long as the Padus River. Circum oppida muri sunt. So around the towns are walls. Circum oppida muri sunt. Circum Romam est murus antiquus. Ooh, it's a really old wall. Around Rome is an old wall. So notice that around is another preposition. And it's another preposition that takes the ablative, just like in the previous video I had mentioned. In muro Romano, so in the Roman wall, duodecim portae sunt. There are 12 doors. There are 12 gates. Porta prima, the first gate. Porta prima Romana, so the first Roman gate. Est porta capena. So these gates had names of their own. Some of the gates were named the same name as the road that goes into them, but some of them had names different from the road that led into them. And this, I don't think there's a Via Capena. I don't think. Porta prima Romana est porta Capena. Circum oppidum Tusculum murus non tam longus est, quam circum Romam. So what it's saying here is around the town Tusculum, the wall is not as long as the one around Rome. So there were walls around all the towns. It says that. Where does it say that? Circum oppida, around the towns, muri sunt, there are walls. All right. So that's really all the information it gives about these maps. We're able to use this map to tell what towns a road is in between. So we would say Via Aemilia est inter, but we would want to take these towns which are labeled in the nominative and put them in the accusative. Via Aemilia est inter Placentiam et Ariminum. This one wouldn't change, of course. Via Aurelia est inter Genuam et Romam. And here's a picture of a porta. A road would lead into a porta, and there were 12 gates around Rome. That's kind of famous information to know. Kind of a good bit of trivia. And now we're going to pick up with our story. And we're going to try to remember the verb it goes and eunt, which is they go. And we're going to try to remember the passive voice because we're going to see that in this reading here. Villa Iulii. Remember, we saw villa in the last chapter. It's a house. It's really not just any house. It's the house of a wealthy person is a villa. Villa Iulii, the house of Iulius, est prope Tusculum. So now we can place our family on the map here. It's near Tusculum. It's actually outside of Tusculum in the country, and it's I think we're going to find out here. It's a little further south on the Via Latina than Tusculum, and where our story is taking place, it's on the Via Latina, outside of Tusculum, on the way back to his house. Ab Oppido, so from the town Tusculum, ad villam Iulii, non longa via est. It's not a long way. So remember, I pointed out in the last video that the word via can mean road, but it can also mean way. So it's not a long road. It's not a long way. Okay? Where isn't it a long way from? From Tusculum to the house of Iuli is not a long way. Ecce Iulius et quattuor servi in via. So let's count them. Let's numeramus servos. Let's count the servants. Unus, duo, tres, quattuor. Quattuor servi. Iulius est dominus, et quattuor servi cum Iulio sunt. Right? There are 4 slaves with Iulius. Ecce just means behold, or here are. Ecce Iulius et quattuor servi in via. Iulius ab Oppido ad villam suam, to his house, it. So there's that word goes. Iulius is going from the town to his house. Dominus et servi ab Oppido ad villam eunt. So it's repeating the same information, just now it's including the servants too. So that we're taking that verb, it, and making it eunt, right? They go now. Dominus in lectica est. So that's what this thing is, in lectica est. Duo servi lecticam cum domino portant. So 2 slaves, Davus et Ursus, duo servi lecticam portant. So they're carrying the lectica, and they're carrying it cum domino, with the master. And cum is a preposition that takes the ablative. Servi qui, there's that word again, slaves who, the slaves who, lecticam portant, sunt Ursus et Davus. Ursus, Davus. Iulius non in via ambulat, so he doesn't walk in the street. Julius non in via ambulat, servi eum portant. Naturaliter, naturally, servi eum portant. Cyrus et Leander ambulant. Cyrus sacum portat. Cyrus sacum portat. Et Leander quoque sacum portat. Cyrus et Leander duos sacos in humeris portant. So Cyrus and Leander carry 2 sacks. And of course, sacks are in the accusative plural, sacos. Duos sacos in humeris, on their shoulders. And this is an ablative. It's an ablative plural because they have shoulders plural. So they have 2 sacks on their shoulders. They're carrying them by means of their shoulders. So it's in the ablative. Saci quos Cyrus et Leander portant magni sunt. Okay, so we've not seen quos before, but I bet you can figure it out. When we say the person who somebody verbs, when we see that that's quem with an M for accusative, or the girl that somebody sees, or the girl that somebody hits, is quam, right? When we just see that it's accusative, this shouldn't be terribly difficult. Saci quos, it's the sacks that Cyrus and Leander carry. So it's just an accusative plural. Quos. Saci quos Cyrus et Leander portant magni sunt. So the sacks that Cyrus and Leander are carrying are big. Sed saccus quem Cyrus portat, but the sack that Cyrus carries, non tam magnus est quam saccus Leandri. So remember how we talked about certain roads aren't as long as other roads. Here we're doing the same kind of sentence. We're just saying that one sack is not as heavy as another, or not as big as another sack. Cyrus sed saccus quem Cyrus portat, non tam magnus est quam saccus Leandri, the sack of Leander. Quator servi dominum et duo saccos ab oppido ad villam vehunt. So 4 slaves carry the master and 2 sacks from the town to the house, to the villa. Julius in lectica est inter Ursum et Davum. So just like a road is between 2 towns, and we put those towns in the accusative, if the master is between 2 slaves, we're going to put the 2 slaves in the accusative. It's the same thing. Julius in lectica est inter Ursum et Davum. Ursus est ante Julium. Davus post eum est. So Ursus is ahead of Julius. Davus is behind him. Behind him is. You can see that. Cyrus et Leander non ante lecticam, sed post lecticam ambulant. So they're walking behind the lectica. Venitne Julius a villa? Non a villa venit. So not from the villa is he coming. Unde venit Julius? Where is he coming from? Unde venit Julius? Ab oppido venit. From the town he is coming. So remember, ab means from. And then we put the word in the ablative. Quo it Julius? Where is he going? Ad villam it. Post eum tusculum est. Ante eum, ahead of him, est villa. So behind him is Tusculum. Ahead of him is the villas. Iulius solus non est, nam quattuor servi apud eum sunt. So he's not alone, 4 slaves are with him. Medus non est apud dominum. Yeah, Medus is the name of one of the slaves, but that's not one of the slaves named here. Not one of the slaves that are with him. If you remember, Medus est servus malus. He's the one that has the master's money. So he would not be by the master. Medus non est apud dominum, nam is dominum iratum timet. Medus is not by the master. He's not with the master because he fears the angry master, dominum iratum. Medus est malus servus, qui numos domini in saculo suo habet. Medus is a bad slave who has the coins of the master in saculo suo, in his sack. Dominus servos malos baculo verberat. He beats them. He beats the bad slaves. Baculo, with a stick. Itaque servi mali dominum et baculum eius timent. So therefore, bad slaves fear the master and his stick. Davus autem bonus servus est. Davus, however, he's a good slave. Neque is medum amat. Davus amicus medi non est. So Davus is not the friend of Medus. Davus amicus medi non est, nam servus bonus et servus malus non amici, sed inimici sunt. So they're not friends, but they're enemies. Medus est inimicus Davi. Ursus autem amicus Davi est. So we're hearing some of the alliances between the slaves now. Ursus autem. Autem is a word that means however. Ursus autem amicus Davi est. Medus abest. So he's not there. Abest a domino. He is absent from the master, from his master. A domino suo. Medus abest a domino suo. Estne in oppido Tusculo? That's a good question. Where? Ubi est Medus? Ubi est Medus? Estne Medus in oppido Tusculo? Medus Tusculi non est. He's not in Tusculum. Oh, by the way, you can use the genitive of words. The genitive of Tusculum is Tusculi, and you can just use that as a shorthand way of saying in that place. So Medus Tusculi, so Tusculi is just short for in Tusculum. Medus Tusculi non est. Neque Romae est Medus. So he's not in Rome either. Neque Romae. And there's Rome in the genitive, right? Romae. Neque Romae est Medus. Sed in via Latina. So we're learning where Medus, that bad slave, is. Sed in via Latina inter Romam et Tusculum. Let's go back up to that map. Let's find Medus, that bad slave. In via Latina inter Romam et Tusculum. So he's in this little stretch right here of the Via Latina. Is that where the master is? No, the master lives outside of Tusculum, but on the other side of Tusculum. So they are not going to encounter one another. The master had to go to Tusculum from his home, and he lives on the other side of Tusculum. Let's see. Let's start back here. Can't really find where we are. Medus abest ad domino suo. Est nean opido Tusculo? Medus Tusculi non est, neque Romae est medus, sed in via Latina inter Romam et Tusculum, unde venit medus. Where is he coming from? Tusculo venit. He's coming from Tusculum. Neque is ad villam Iulii it. And he's not going to the house of Iulius. Why would he? He stole the master's money. Quo it medus? Where is he going? Quo it medus? Romam it. So there's a sentence right there that sort of exemplifies how we can use place names in the accusative to just say to that place. So he's going, it means he's going or he goes to Rome. Since Roma is in the accusative, Romam, it just means to Rome. He's going to Rome. Tusculum post eum est. So Tusculum is behind him. Ante eum est Roma. Medus via Latina Tusculo Romam ambulat. This sentence says a lot right here. So medus is walking. Medus ambulat means medus is walking. The Via Latina, if you look closely at Via Latina, you'll notice it's in the ablative. So we're using Via Latina to be just like how we can use baculo in the ablative to say that he beats them by means of a stick. We're using Via Latina in the ablative to say that he's going to the place that he's going to by means of the Via Latina. So medus Via Latina Tusculo Romam ambulat. So he's walking from Tusculum to Rome. Tusculum is in the ablative here because he's coming from there, and Rome is in the accusative, Romam, because he's going to there. So this short little sentence is packed with lots of meaning. Medus Via Latina Tusculo Romam ambulat. Now we're going to hear a little bit about Cornelius, who is a friend of Iulius. Etiam Cornelius amicus Iulii in Via Latina est inter Romam et Tusculum. Ooh, the friend of Cornelius. He's on the Via Latina and he's between Rome and Tusculum. Oh, that's where that bad slave Medus is. Unde venit Cornelius? Where is he coming from? Is non Tusculo, sed Roma venit. So he's not coming from Tusculum, but from Rome. He's coming. Quo it Cornelius, non Romam, sed Tusculum. Tusculum it. So he's going the opposite way. They're probably going to end up running into each other. Roma post eum, ante eum Tusculum est. Cornelius in equo est. Equus qui Cornelium vehit. So the horse that is transporting Cornelius, pulcher est. Good looking horse. Iulius et Cornelius ad villas suas eunt. So they're going to their own homes. Iulius et Cornelius ad villas suas eunt. Villa ubi Iulius habitat. So the house where Iulius lives. Prope Tusculum est. So it's near Tusculum. Ubi habitat Cornelius. Is Tusculi habitat. So he lives in Tusculum, not just prope Tusculum, but in Tusculo, Or another way we could say that is by putting tusculum in the genitive. Is tusculi habitat. Iam Julius prope villam suam est. So now Julius is near his villa. Servi qui lecticam portant fessi sunt. So there's a new word. Fessi is tired. And so we see that tired is in the nominative plural. Dominus autem fessus non est. Why would he be? Dominus autem fessus non est, nam is non ambulat. Julius ab urso et davo portator. So here's where we start to see the passive voice come in. Julius ab urso et davo. So remember what we're doing here? By Ursus and Davos. He is carried, portator. Itaque is fessus non est. Fessi sunt Cyrus et Leander. Nam duos magnos sacos umeris portant. So they're, for they are carrying 2 large sacks by means of their shoulders. And so umeris is in the ablative plural. Umeris. Neque vacui sunt saci. So, and they're not empty. Neque vacui sunt saci. Saci, qui Asiro et Leandro portantur magni sunt. Sed sacus, quem Cyrus portat, non tam magnus est, quam sacus qui a Leandro portatur. That's a sentence with a lot in it too. So the sacks that by Cyrus and Leander are carried, portantur, magni sunt, are big. But, said sacus quem Cyrus portat, the sack that Cyrus carries, non tam magnus est, quam. So here's another comparison. It's not as big as quam sacus, as the sack qui, the sack that by Leandro is carried. So see how we're being sneaky and using the passive voice. Itaque Cyrus non tam fessus est quam Leander. Therefore, Cyrus is not as tired as Leander, because the sack that he's carrying is not as big. Cornelius non est fessus, nam is equo vehitur. He is transported by horse. Julius lectica vehitur, servi ambulant. Domini vehuntur. So the masters are being carried, are being transported. Medus ambulat. Nam is servus est, neque equum habet. So Medus walks, for he is a slave, and he doesn't have a horse. Neque equum habet. So remember, neque means, the ne part of neque means not, and que means and, because if you attach a que on the end of something, it means and. So, and not a horse he has. So, and he doesn't have a horse. Julius prope villam suam est. He's near his house. Medus autem, qui dominum iratum timet. So who fears the angry master. Procul a villa Julii abest. Dominus a servo malo timetur. So the master is feared. So if the master feared something, it would be dominus timet. But because it's the master is feared, it's timetur, a passive voice. And he is feared by whom? A servo malo, by the bad slave. Medus prope Romam est. Iam muri Romani ab eo videntur. Ooh, here's another sneaky way of using the passive voice. So Medus is near Rome. Now, the walls of Rome, or the Roman walls, Muri Romani, or the Roman walls, by him, ab eo, videntur, are seen, et Porta Capena, and the Porta Capena. Is qui via Latina venit per portam Capenam Romam intrat. So he who, by means of the Via Latina, comes through the Capena door, enters Rome. So this is just telling you that it's the Via Latina that leads to the Porta Capena. But here, Porta Capena is in the accusative because per means through, and per is one of those prepositions that takes the ablative. So per portam capenam Romam intrat, enters Rome. Cur Romam it Medus. So why is Medus going to Rome? Romam it quia Lydia Romae habitat. Ooh. Quae est Lydia? Lydia est amica. Nam Lydia amica eius est. Medus Lydiam amat, et ab ea amatur. Oh, so he loves her, and he is loved by her. Et ab ea amatur. Medus Romam vocatur ab amica sua. Quae femina est pulchra et proba, who is a woman, pretty and good. So Medus loves Lydia, and he's loved by her. This Medus Romam vocatur. So Medus is called by Rome, or is called to Rome, sorry. He's called to Rome, vocatur, Romam, to Rome, not by Rome. Then Rome would be in the ablative, and Rome is clearly in the accusative here. So he's called to Rome by his girlfriend. Quae femina est pulchra et proba. Itaque is fessus non est, et laetus cantat. And he sings happily. Non via longa est Romam. So he's singing, it's not a long way to Rome. Ubi amica habitat, where my girlfriend lives. And there's the mea for my, because ubi amica habitat means where girlfriend lives. The mea is the my. Pulchra, where my pretty girlfriend lives. So he might have otherwise been tired, but he's not tired now because he's kind of got a pep in his step. Non via longa est Romam, ubi amica habitat mea pulchra. Sed id quod Medus cantat, that which Medus sings, a Lydia non auditor, is not heard by Lydia. Iam Iulius in villa est. Now Iulius is in the house, et ab Aemilia liberisque laetis salutatur. So he's in the town, and by Amelia and by the kids. So if we've been so far, anytime that we've been seeing that things are being done by people, it's been being done by just one person at a time. So we're seeing endings like ab Aemilia or ab Syro for the slave Syrus. If it's something's being ported, if something's being carried by Syrus, it'd be Asuro. But here we're seeing liberisque, liberis. That's an ablative, plural. So by Amelia and by the kids, liberisque, and by the kids, happy he is greeted, salutator. Salutat is greets, but salutator is a passive voice. It's is greeted. So that's a really cool sentence. I'm going to read it again. Iam Julius in villa est, et ab Aemilia liberisque laetis salutator. Cornelius Tusculi est, medus autem Romae est, ante ostium Lydiae. Ooh, he's in front of the door of Lydia. So remember we saw in the last chapter where we were seeing the Roman house. Ostia is door. Or sorry, ostium is door. Ostium is the accusative. It's no different than the nominative for a neuter word. And then Lydiae, that's of Lydia. That's a genitive for Lydia. Medus ostium pulsat. So same word for knocking and hitting, right? Medus ostium pulsat. Lydia imperat intra. So she commands, enter. And there's a command. There's an imperative form of a verb. Medus per ostium intrat, et amicam suum salutat. Salve, mea Lydia, ecce amicus tuus. So behold, your boyfriend, ecce amicus tuus, qui solus Romam ad te venit, who alone to Rome to you comes. And that is the end of, nope, it's not. Lydia verbis medi delectatur. Lydia is delighted. There's another passive. By the words of Medus. Now, why don't we say verbis, right? By the words? Because when we say that things are done by a person, we put the or the ab. But if they're just done by things, then we don't need to say the or the ab, but we still would put those words in the ablative, which is what we did here, verbis, by the words. Just like if you beat the master with the master beats slaves with a stick, we just say baculo. We don't say a baculo, right? Unless somebody's name was Baculum, then we might say a baculo, but nobody's name is Baculum. So Lydia verbis medi delectatur, eumque salutat, and she greets him. O amice, salve, ubi est dominus tuus? Where's your master? Medus dicit, Julius in villa est apud servus suos. So by his slaves, or with his slaves. Neque is iam meus dominus est. And he, now, my master is, well, and he is not, because there's the ne part right there, and he is not my master anymore. Verba medi, the words of Medus, a Lydia laeta audiuntur. So she hears the words of Medus happily. And that is the end of our story. So I would encourage you to read through this after seeing the video here and going through slowly. Read through it again until more of it is immediately understandable to you as you read it. That would be the goal here. And then also, I would encourage you to look at the pictures. For the part where it's talking about the map, look at the map. For the part where it's talking about who's carrying what and where they are, look back up at the picture. There's an umerus. If something is being done with the umerus, it's umeris, or well, with the shoulders plural, it'd be umeris. And so some of these side things can be very, very helpful. And then lastly, I would encourage you to, the song, out of all of the chapters that have songs, oh, not that one. Out of all of the chapters that have songs, chapter 6 has the best song. It's called Non longa via est Romam. It's the song is actually the song sung by Medus as he's walking to Rome to see Lydia. So if you go into the website, this song is one of the few that were already on YouTube, and so I have that video linked in there. And if you click the CC button in the corner as you're watching that video, the lyrics come up in Latin. And these songs are in classical pronunciation, so it is a little bit different. It'll say non longa via instead of via. The V would make a W sound. Non longa via est Romam. That means it's not a long way to Rome. And so I would encourage you to look in the Via Latina chapter for that video, where it'll be posted, and that will be good practice for you. And then lastly, what I would encourage you to do too, since this is the last video that I'm recording for this class, take a look at your Mass booklet and see if you can find any passive voice verbs in the liturgy at all, or in any of the songs that might be in Latin. If we're looking up some songs, try to keep a lookout for passive voice verbs, or maybe keep a lookout for words that are in the accusative or something like that, and just kind of be scanning for some of those things from time to time. All right. Valete omnes. Had a lot of fun this summer with this class, and I will be in touch about what comes next. All right.